All right, welcome. This is lab number 6 of AZ-500. Lab is called Service Endpoints and Securing Storage. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take an introduction into service endpoints, and we're going to use the storage service endpoint in particular to make it possible for us to talk to the storage service without going via the public. All we need to do first here is we need to create a virtual network. So, let's do that. Virtual network. And create. Okay, so here we got our subscription. Resource group is correct. Virtual network name should be my virtual network, and it should be in East US. Then with regards to IP addresses, so we wanted to have 10.0.0.16, yeah, and then a subnet there, and that subnet is supposed to be called public. And we want to have a 24 in there. Yeah. All right, that's all cool. All right, so we're done. So let's go over to our virtual network. And let's create another subnet. And then this is a private subnet. Private. We're going to call it start from 10.0.1.0 and make it 24 as well. Then in your instructions, you're supposed to create a network security group, including a rule there. In my environment, that's already done for me. Okay. So what I can do is just go to the network security group. It's already here, as you can see. And open it. And what I want to do here is add a new outbound rule. Outbound rules, add. And the source in this case needs to be a tag. And it needs to be a virtual network. Any port range, and the destination here is the service tag of internet. Again, any port range. I'm just going to say any. Oops. There we go. Any protocol. What I'm going to do is deny. I'm going to make this a little bit higher priority number, so lower priority. We'll just call this deny internet all. Right, then the inbound security rules. Let's add one here as well. So from anywhere to tag virtual network. If the port is 3389, you can probably guess why. in TCP, we want to allow, let's make that also something like 1200. And let's call that allow RDP all. All right, so this is now created. So now let's associate that with our private subnet that we created previously. Private one, there we go. Then we also need to create a network security group for the public subnet so that it allows incoming RDP. So let's create that one. The name for this is going to be public network security group East US. That's done. So then let's create an inbound security rule. To virtual network with the port 3389, again with TCP. In that case, we want to allow, have the same priority here. Let's just say allow RDP all. All right, we got that in place, and then we associate this with the public subnet. All right, so now we're done with the network part. So we have a separate private and public subnet. Let's next create a storage account. Create. Okay. So we got our resource group here in place. This is my unique name for RG. East US is okay. Performance is standard. We're happy with just locally redundant storage for this demo. Cool. All right, that's done. So let's go to our resource. So what we want to have is a file service. I'm going to add a file share. I'm going to call it my file share. And then we want to disable backups on it. It's done. So now we get a script that allows us to connect to it. I'm going to copy paste that into Notepad. There we go. Let's go back to our storage account. Security and networking. And we want to enable access from existing virtual network. So we want to enable from selected virtual networks and addresses, right? Well, which ones? Well, let's add an existing virtual network. And this is going to be our private. That one, and then private. Okay. So that's done, and then enable. So this will create a service endpoint in that network. There we go. Right, let's save this. And next we're going to create some virtual machines. So let's go over to virtual machines, create. Same resource group. Oops. We're going to call this first one my VM private. The image is going to be a Windows one. We want 2022 data center. Then the username is going to be student. Password is going to be all right. We don't need any public inbound ports here. On the disks, we're just going to change it to a hard drive to be a little bit cheaper. Then for networking, we're going to put this into the private subnet. Yeah, that's correct. This should be okay as well. All right, so let's create this one. All right, so let's create our second VM. Same resource group. This time, this is my VM public. Same Windows version, that's good. Username student. Very good password. No public ports. Then with disks, change it again to hard drive to be a bit cheaper. Then in networking, this time I'm going to put it into the public. Right. There we go. And then I guess we can just review and create. All right, so that is done. So let's go back to our virtual machines. And here we have our private instance. So on here, what we can do is connect to this. Public IP address. And then RDP. And then download the file. And then open it. Remember our password. No, I didn't. There we go. Okay, so let's go to PowerShell. And then remember we had this connection string saved in Notepad. So I'm just going to copy paste it. All right, there we see we now have our Z drive added. Cool. Another thing we could check is whether we can get to the internet from here, right? So the same command that we actually was used in that script. So test net connection, but this time we're just going to say computer name is going to be www.bing.com and the port is going to be, let's say, 80. Yeah, and this fails, right? Why? Because this is in the private subnet and we didn't allow any outgoing access to the internet. So you see that the actual file share has been connected to via the Azure backbone and not via the internet. So okay, let's kill this one. Yeah. And let's go back to our virtual machine somewhere here. Our public virtual machine. Let's connect to that. Open up PowerShell. Then we're again using the same script. And we got an access is denied error. Why is that? Well, remember when we set up stuff, then we only wanted to have access to this storage account from a limited number of subnets. And this subnet doesn't have that permission, right? However, if we run the test net connection to www.bing.com on port 80, then that will succeed. So this has access to the internet, but not to our storage account. That's the end of this lab. Thanks very much for listening. Remember to remove any resources that you might have created. Easiest is if you have a single resource group with those, and then just remove that. See you in the next lab. Till then.